Hey everyone, I'm Sam, Chief Storyteller at Howtheywork, and our goal, as always, is to educate, making often confusing things a little less so. So tap that like button, click that share button, and join the team. Because on today's episode, we take a look at the executive, otherwise known as cabinet. It's small, it's powerful, and it's always on the spotlight. But who are these power brokers at the highest level of local government? Let's find out. If you've watched episode 1, What is the TCI Government? See the link above. You would have learned about the executive, our superpowered bosses. If you haven't, please check it out. It will help make what I'm about to say make a whole lot more sense. The executive. The executives are again the people with executive authority. Think of executive authority as boss powers, the people in charge. Technically, executive authority in the TCI lies with the Queen. But since she's oceans away literally, locally this authority is flexed by the governor as her representative, or officers that report to the governor. But who are these officers? Good question. In episode 1, we mentioned that the TCI is a parliamentary representative democratic dependency. And in episodes 3 and 4, we talked about the House of Assembly. Now we'll connect the two. Executive authority is demonstrated collectively as cabinet, a core group of ministers who advise the governor on government affairs, while also leading a specific or a group of government functions. But why is cabinet not just the governor alone? Well, because although the TCI is a dependent territory of the UK, we self-govern by electing our own politicians during general elections to the House. It's amongst these House members that the cabinet members are selected and cabinet is formed. If you don't know what the House is or have no idea how it works, check out episode 3 and episode 4, link above. Now back to cabinet. The name cabinet was adopted in the 2006 Constitution and continues today. And by this point, we all know the Constitution is king. Under the current Constitution, cabinet members include the governor, the deputy governor, the attorney general, specific members of the party winning the election, namely the premier, and a maximum of 6 other House of Assembly members recommended by the premier. One of those members becomes the deputy premier. It's kind of worth saying that the premier's recommendations are 99.99999% of the time approved by the governor. So essentially, the premier forms her cabinet with who she wants, and the governor simply approves it. All appointments are done by instrument under the public seal. That's a fancy way of saying it's legal. Now, cabinet members, except the deputy governor and the attorney general, are referred to as ministers, and each of them hold responsibility for one or more government functions. If you watched episode 1, you know where I'm going with this. So let's go. Education is a government function. The cabinet member responsible for education is thus the Minister of Education. National health is a government function. The cabinet member responsible for health is thus the Minister of Health. Now, that logic is essentially repeated for every government function, literally. Don't believe me? Currently, there are 7 ministers responsible for 7 ministries, and they are the Minister of Finance, Investment, Trade and District Administration, otherwise known as the Premier, the Minister of Infrastructure, Housing, Planning and Development, the Minister of Education, Youth, Culture, Social and Library Services, the Minister of Home Affairs, Public Utilities and Transportation, the Minister of Immigration, Citizenship, Labor and Employment Services, the Minister of Health, Agriculture, Sport, and Human Services, and the Minister of Tourism, Environment, Heritage, Maritime, Gaming, and Disaster Management. Those were really long names, but I hope you appreciate the point. Because as cabinet members, they're responsible for specific government functions or services. You would imagine that if there's multiple government functions or services that they're responsible for, they have a really long title. I'll give you an example. Think of cabinet in this case as the management team of a company. They deal with the day-to-day decision making and the day-to-day approvals. But they kind of have to report, well, if not report, at least they get held accountable to by the House. And we all know what the House is. If you don't, check out episode 3 and 4. Now, I must add that cabinet members can also be removed from cabinet. But there's a super detailed, legalese-filled process with specific conditions. Take a look at Section 34 of the Constitution if you're interested. And there you have it. That's our cabinet. But no, we're not done. Now that you know what cabinet is, how in God's beautiful Turks and Caicos turquoise waters does it work? Well, that's a bit more interesting and complicated. So tune in episode 6 to find out more. Before you go, now that you have a better understanding of what cabinet is, let us know in the comments if this was helpful to you. If you have any specific questions that you'd love for us to do a video about to make the Turks and Caicos a little less complicated. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay informed.